Hello, pre-calculus students. This is Mr. McAllen, day 14 of Unit 7. What I'm going to go over today is the steps in solving a trigonometric equation. So we're going to first talk about is what is a trigonometric equation, what quadrant the angle is in that our solution could be found in, what the reference angle is in terms of the solution. We want you to draw the angle, and then we want you to figure out what the angle is in standard position. So we're going to go through this process, and the first thing is a trigonometric equation is something that looks like this, and this is a very simple trigonometric equation. We may have 2 sine of theta equals 1. We may have something like 2 sine squared of theta plus sine of theta plus 1 equals 0. We could have tan of beta equals root 3. So these are all examples of trig equations, and we have a methodology in which we go about and solve them algebraically without a calculator, and that's what we want to focus on today. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at a very simple one, and that is where we look at the trig formula or equation, and we try to figure out what quadrant the angle is in. So in number 1 it says if sine of theta is equal to, sine of beta is equal to 1/2, and beta is an angle between 0 and 360 degrees, find all the values of the angle beta. So what we're going to first do is consider sine of beta is positive. So what quadrant is sine positive in? And we had this little acronym that we talked about in class, and it's the all students take all-star trig class, or all students take calculus, or all students take cooking, whatever you want to say. But when sine is positive, we know the answer is in one of 2 quadrants. It's either in quadrant 1 or the angle is in quadrant 2. So what we do is we use the sides of the given by the ratio to figure out what the sides of the triangle are. So in the first quadrant, I know my answer will have the sides, because the opposite will be 1, the hypotenuse will be 2, and if you recall, this is a 30, 60, 90, where my adjacent side is root 3. So the first value of beta that I find from this is beta can be 30 degrees. Because that's the angle in quadrant 1. Then I go over to quadrant 2 and I draw the same 30-degree angle in its reference angle position, and I can have an angle that will be 150 degrees to give me the same ratios. So my other angle answer for beta would be, the answer is 150 degrees. So those are my 2 answers for sine that exist from between 0 and 360 degrees. Let's look at another problem. The next problem is cosine, but now they give us the domain for the answers for x is going to be between 0 and 2 pi. So if cosine of x is equal to negative root 3 over 2, find the angle between 0 and 2 pi radians and find all the values of x. So what I do in this case is, remember, this is work without a calculator. I want to see where is cosine going to be negative. Again, using the all students take calc method, I know that my angle is going to be in quadrant 2 or quadrant 3. My sides are going to be, adjacent's going to be negative root 3, my hypotenuse is going to be 2, and my opposite side is either going to be plus 1 or negative 1. So recognizing that this is again a 30, 60, 90, so this angle being 30 here and 30 there for reference, I can now figure out what my angle is for x. For the first angle, I'm going to just draw that. It's going to be from 0 all the way to that terminal side, and that'll have to be 150 degrees. And my other angle, oh, I'm sorry, I was going to do this in radians. So this angle 30, I'm going to replace and call that pi over 6. This other angle is pi over 6. So remember, this angle here, this has got to be 5 pi over 6. And this angle all the way around to here is going to be 7 pi over 6. So the two answers are going to be 5 pi over 6, and the other angle is going to be 11 pi over 6. Now this is from, not 11 pi over 6, I'm sorry, 7 pi over 6. So if you want to do this problem in degrees, you could simply say that the angle was 150 degrees or it was 210 degrees. Moving along, we have another trig equation. In this case, we're going to solve for cosine. So 2 cosine, well, let me just read the question. Solve the linear trig equation if x is between 0 and 360. So in this case, we have a mixed up equation. We want to solve for cosine. So the first thing we do is 2 cosine of x is equal, we're going to add 1 to both sides. That'll be -1. And then I'll have cosine of x is equal to -1/2. I want to see where my cosine ratio is equal to a negative value. Again, that happens to be in quadrant 2, like we just did, and quadrant 3. So this angle here, I'm going to have -1 for the adjacent side. I have 2 for the hypotenuse, and again, there isn't too much originality for these equations right now because we're dealing with either 30, 60, 90 or 45, 45, 90. And these two sides are either plus √3 or minus √3. Remember the direction of the vector, pointing up or pointing down. And we know that this angle here is 60 degrees, and this reference angle here is 60 degrees. So remember the steps. We first said that we were going to find what quadrant we were in. We did that. We were going to identify the reference triangle and the reference angle. We did that. Now we're going to come up with the angle in standard position. So for this first angle, this is going to be 120 degrees because that goes to that first angle we saw, and the other one will be 60 degrees beyond 60 degrees beyond 180, and that'll be 240 degrees. So my two answers for x are going to be 120 degrees and x is equal to 240 degrees. I think this is the last problem for the video, and this is where 2 sine of x is equal to 1. So we're going to have the sine of x is equal to 1/2. So when we solve, we divide by 2. So now what quadrants are we in for that? We're in quadrant 1. And I think I already solved this problem. Let me just look up to the top. Yep, we said sine of beta equals 1/2. So let me change up this problem a little bit. I'm going to change it. I'm going to say that 2 sine of x is equal to √3. So sine of x is equal to √3 over 2, and this is just the way this equation can go. We'll cross that off. And when we set this up, since it's positive, we're in quadrant 1. And this is where the opposite side is √3, the hypotenuse is 2, the adjacent side will be 1, and that is a 60 degree reference angle. And then we come over to this triangle over here, and this is -1. The opposite side again was √3, pointing up, positive √3, the hypotenuse was 2, and now we have the reference angle here, 60 degrees. So our two answers for this angle are x is either equal to 60 degrees in quadrant 1 or the reference angle of 60 degrees in quadrant 2, which would be 120 degrees. I hope this video helps you understand the basic idea of what we're going to try to do with solving some basic trig equations, and in the next few days we're going to be building upon this. So please answer the questions in the form and let me know what you think of this video, and hopefully this helps us work through some problems tomorrow in class.